Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the annual alumni event for UJ. We're running the fourth year consecutively now, but what's important tonight is that the Orange Army has turned 20. 20 is not just 20 days, 20 seconds, 20 hours. It's 20 years of excellence. And around the room, if I look, it's just distinction after distinction that I see in the room. And that is what warms my heart and actually make me glad to say that I'm part of this Orange Army. And tonight we're going to have nice, juicy discussions of what we lawyers keep ourselves busy with. But before I get into that, I want to just briefly touch on my guests. And I would start here on my right. And not because I give him preferential treatment, but me and the gentleman on my right here come a long way. It's Mr. Gift Kaba, and he's a senior associate at the Cliff Decker Hofmeyer firm, and he runs the Pro Bono, which is more or less in the room where we are. Then next to him, we have Ms. Yvonne Shabangu. She's an admitted attorney, also an alumni of this great University of Johannesburg, as our VC would say, the great University of Johannesburg. So guys, remember to say the great University of Johannesburg when you talk. Then next to him, we've got Mr. Nhlamu Ntabeni. He's also, I don't need to say, part of us. And then the lady, the glowing lady there next to her, I've got a special nickname, but she asked me very nicely to say, I don't need to speak about it tonight. And I'm going to give her that. She's Ms. Tseho Khalai, but formerly known to us at UJ as Ms. Tseho Mwasheng. And then next to her, and these ladies hold distinction for this university. We have Ms. Brioni, governor. But these two ladies showed to us lawyers can also be beautiful. And we want to say thank you for flying that UJ flag. They are also alumni of this great University of Johannesburg. Then we've got Mr. Muhammad, or Advocate Muhammad Guvadia, also a former alumni. He just shared with me some of his law clinic moments, which was not so nice, but let's not go into that for now. We'll leave it for later on after the event. And then we've got Mr. Tubatsi Moloi, also one of our very own. He's an advocate of the High Court. I must also add, it's ADV before the name Tubatsi. And then to my left, I normally have also a special name for her. She holds a special place because I've known her for also 100 years and 12. It will give out our age, but it's Ms. Mahongwa, and she is the senior manager that is actually involved in the alumni's office and responsible. But the lady of our faculty, boss lady, Prof. Kathleen van der Linde, but she doesn't like you to call her Prof. She likes to be called on her name. She's very down to earth, and I like to have conversations with her because she allows me to speak a little bit Afrikaans. So sometimes Afrikaans is scarce in Joburg, but it's our acting executive, Dean Prof. Kathleen van der Linde, and she's going to make the opening remarks for this auspicious, let's use the politicians' word, auspicious occasion, and this 20-year of marvelousness, excellenceness of the UJ brand and the Orange Army. Over to you, Prof. Kathleen van der Linde, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elton Hart, of course. I think many of you might know him from TV, and we know him as an attorney in our law clinic, and he is our very enigmatic presenter, always putting us all at ease, because it is quite stressful to be here under the cameras, but with Mr. Hart, we all feel a bit better. So I would like to say good evening to colleagues, to alumni and other friends of the University of Johannesburg. And it's my absolute honor and privilege to welcome you to this very special occasion. Law alumni throughout the years, 20 years of excellence. Tonight we come together to celebrate not only a milestone in the life of the university, but also the enduring impact of the Faculty of Law and its alumni over the past 2 decades. We are very happy to be celebrating our 20 years, and the Vice Chancellor said we will be celebrating from 1 minute past midnight on the 1st of January to 1 minute before midnight. And I said to him, but then we're missing out on 2 minutes of
celebration.
So I convinced him that we will just be celebrating the entire year. So this is a dedicated celebration of our law alumni and the powerful footprints that they are leaving in legal, business, and social spaces. We hope that this tradition will grow in both strength and spirit, and creating a space where different generations of UJ Law graduates can connect, collaborate, and reflect. We are thrilled to be hosting this event in this milestone year of the university's 20th anniversary, and this is the first law alumni event for the year. So I just want to say, importantly, as we mark the 20 years of UJ and this faculty this evening, that does not mean that we want to exclude alumni who completed their degrees in one of the legacy faculties of this university. As you would know, in 2005, UJ was born from transformation, a new kind of university for a new South Africa. And since then, the faculty has really grown into a powerful engine of justice, leadership, and social change, really societal impact. So what makes this journey truly remarkable are the people who have walked it with us, our alumni and colleagues, of course. You have carried the values of integrity, of excellence, and critical thought into courtrooms, boardrooms, and in the public space, civil society, and beyond. So tonight is about reflection and reconnection. It's about looking back on the legal paths we've walked, the barriers we've broken, and the communities we've served. But it's also about looking forward at how we continue to shape a legal profession that is responsive, resilient, and deeply rooted in justice. And by saying legal profession, I don't want to limit it to attorneys and advocates. Our law graduates do so much more. We are really honored to be joined by a stellar panel of alumni, advocates, attorneys, entrepreneurs, and public figures, each of whom embodies a unique facet of the UJ Law legacy. Your insights this evening on access to justice, constitutional rights, and on bridging the law and entrepreneurship divide promise to inspire both memory and momentum. To our partners in the Alumni Office and the Faculty of Law Alumni Affinity Group, thank you for helping bring this event to life. And to our technical and support teams, thank you for ensuring we connect meaningfully, even in virtual spaces. To all of you joining us from near and far, thank you for being a part of our journey and part of this great evening. UJ Law's excellence is not measured by buildings or by rankings, but really by the remarkable individuals who leave here and go on to make the law work for justice, for people, and for change. Welcome to the celebration and welcome home to the faculty.
I think our prof just forgot here to say welcome home to the great. Let's not forget that.
The law faculty at the great university.
The great law faculty at the great University of Johannesburg. That's who we are, guys. Once again, welcome, and I let the tongues be relaxed. Don't feel under pressure. I know lawyers, we can talk. We can talk. So make sure we engage. And guys, I want to set the table. I want to dress the table with the orange flag of this university, going into a very, very sensitive topic called access to justice. Now, for me, over the years, being in the law clinic, I've seen things happen. And it makes one wonder, does access to justice actually exist? Now, I'm a little bit of an older generation attorney. And if I'm still grappling with that question, surely you guys should be grappling with that question. Yes, we've got courts all around our country. We see court cases happen. We see people go to the pro bono institutions, and Mr. Kala, I think you would know that they would come. But is that really access to justice? Does it really speak to that Section 34, Section 35, right, of our Constitution? And I want to hear you guys on that topic. Do we think South Africa is where we're supposed to be when we have this topic and conversation about access to justice? Does our people have that? For me, seeing a courtroom in a rural area doesn't say people have got access to justice. And that is where I want to look at. And I want our guys online also, from your different settings where you sit, to actually engage us on this topic, get involved, and tell us what you think of what is really happening in our country. And we as lawyers, are we doing enough to make sure that our people, the people of this country, gets fair treatment in our court? So I will get it over to the floor and the panel. And here, I would not choose anybody. I would want you to hang yourself. You say, I want to jump in by myself. So over to you guys. Anybody can go.
I think
I see Mr. Guvadia says he's ready to go.
I think access to justice is important. It's enshrined in Section 34 of the Constitution. But what does access to justice mean? And I think, Mr. Hart, you raise a very important point. It's not about a courtroom in a rural area, but rather what happens inside the courtroom in the rural area. The thing is, if I could give an example from my own practice. Last year, I was involved in an urgent application in the Pretoria High Court. I represented a trade union. The trade union brought this urgent against a state-owned company who was in business arrest. And we said as the trade union, our workers haven't been paid for the past 6 months. Some of them committed suicide. Some of them passed away. They couldn't send their kids to school. They couldn't pay their installments on their cars and houses. And we go to the court and we said, please, court, we are asking for something very simple. We are asking for payment of salaries. That's all we want. These people are suffering. And now we're sitting now in front of the judge in the urgent court. And the judge says, no, no, no. Counsel, I'm striking this matter from the urgent court. Why? He says, your founding affidavit is not in order. You don't address urgency. You come to the urgent court. But I say to the judge, you know, judge, this matter is urgent. It's a matter of life and death. People are dying here. If they don't get paid their salaries, how must they buy food to survive? He says, you know, in your affidavit, you were supposed to say this matter is urgent because somebody has committed suicide. This matter is urgent because somebody has died. This matter is urgent because people can't. I said, Judge, there's a heading, urgency, and we list the grounds of urgency. And lo and behold, he says, counsel, I'm not inclined to hear your matter. I said, Judge, this is unacceptable. Our clients have come to the doors of the court seeking assistance, seeking justice. So he says, no, your founding affidavit doesn't address urgency. So I said, my lord, because obviously when you address the judge in court, say, my lord, this founding affidavit was deposed to by the Secretary General of the trade union. He's a layman. He doesn't know legal procedure. How is it that you can strike such an urgent matter of the court roll? These people are seeking justice on a technical point. But what I'm trying to say, eventually he did strike it. And that's the thing. And now, as counsel, my instructing attorney need to go back to the members of the trade union now protesting outside the court and tell them, sorry, you can't buy groceries this month. Sorry to the ladies, you cannot buy sanitary products for yourself this month because the judge struck this matter on a technical point. So my question is that justice?
And I want to straight shoot to Mr. Kaba because your office is well poised, well positioned, where people who don't have money, people who don't have hope, normally comes and say, Mr. Kaba, I don't know. What do I do? They normally come to your office. They normally come to my office. We are their last hope. What's your take on this?
I think in the broader scheme of things, those are the people that tend to be fortunate because those are the people who have access to the information and have come to know about the existence of this service. So that's more or less, we're talking about people who've already benefited. The biggest thing for me when we look into the issue of access to justice, I think it's the issue of legal education is fundamental. My experience or my view is that although we've come a long way in working to provide access to justice and access to court, there's a long way to go in as far as bridging the gap between what the law is as we know it as legal practitioners and as people who understand it and the people on the ground. And that also for me speaks to access to information. So to come back to your point, so I think that's the biggest hindrance that we have as a nation. So people that come to a pro bono institution or office that seek pro bono assistance, those are fortunate people, because a lot of the time, those are the people that will either get assisted by, for instance, our office, or if we're not in a position to assist them, we are able to serve as a referral point. And that goes a long way, because in most cases, people or the case might not have a merit, or may not be strong on merits, but all the person wants is to be heard. So that service is a service that, as Cliff Decker of Mayor, which is a firm that I represent, and as a pro bono in human rights practice, it's an issue that we are very committed to. Our service and the standard of excellence, and we make it a point that the person that comes through the door, we are able to assist them, but go beyond further and make it a point that we assist them in an impactful way, which means how we assist and impacts other people that are in that person's position. So in other way, we assist them in a way that impacts their interest, or that goes beyond their own interest. But long story short, there is access, I think, but it's a degree to that access that we should be concerned with today.
I want to now, the males have now fought and talked and said what is their view, but nothing works without the say-so of women. And I want the women to come on board and say to us, what is their perspective? What is their view? What have they experienced? Do they think we've gained some ground, or is there still some heavy lifting to be done?
I'll go for it. So I can agree to both the gentlemen that we still have a long way to go, but we have access to a certain extent. So I will speak from what I've experienced. So I'm a labor specialist, right? And I work for Legal Wise, right? So Legal Wise's biggest aim is to provide affordable legal services, right? But also you find that even that's the case, sometimes we can't refer matters to attorneys, and we have to sort of refer people to the law clinics. We have to refer people to legal aid, pro bono offices, but you find that those offices or those facilities are not enough, because also there's only so much that can be done by those facilities, right? And then I think another big problem I have seen, particularly with labor law rights, right, is that a lot of the people, firstly, they don't have information as to where to access the help that they need. But more than that, they are not familiar with their rights, right? So you have a conversation, particularly previously disadvantaged groups, you'd have a conversation with an elder, and then you tell them about a payslip, and they're so shook. They tell you that I haven't had a payslip for the past 4 years. Or you tell them about UIF, or that they have to have their UI-19. They tell you that they don't know about those things. Or you find that they want to claim for severance pay, but they've resigned. So there is sort of like a gap in the information that we have. So I think in trying to resolve the issue of access to justice and legal services that are affordable and that are quality, we need to start off with legal education, right? And also from a very layman perspective to say, these are your rights, but also these are your responsibilities, right? Because you find that sometimes people would abscond from work and they call you, they're like, yeah, just call my employer right now. I want them to pay me my money. I didn't go to work. But it's like, when you abscond, it's a dismissible offense, but they don't know that. And when you tell them that that they get so agitated. So I think it's very important to educate more, even facilitate workshops, you know, every now and then in rural areas, because again, like Mr. Baba said, that we focus on the urban area. They have access. I think we think we're doing much because we're seeing in the modern side. But what about the people that we don't have in the database? What about the people that don't understand English? What about the people that don't even have homes? Somebody that's in the street that's doing odd jobs, whatever the case may be. So we need to dig deep and go where the root problem is. And I think lack of access to information and knowledge.
I see the ladies nodding there, which means that there's consensus, and if the ladies agree, then sort of the males are safe. So, Ms. Khalai, would you want to knock on?
Yes, I do want to jump on and agree with you, because I think what I'm getting from you and what I wanted to add on is to say that we have to be the access. Especially those of us that have public platforms, the platform to reach. But also there's another question when we talk about access to justice. What is justice? Justice to an experienced legal practitioner may be a different concept to a lay person. And I think these are the things that we then have to use our reach from our platforms. It's funny, you'll go to a rural area, and while people may not have basic facilities, they will have internet, they will have data, they will scroll on the internet, on social media, and those are the platforms on which they can find some of us sitting around this table. And I think coming from a point or being a person that I did my articles at Legal Aid South Africa. And the reason I wanted to do my articles at Legal Aid South Africa was because I didn't just spend a semester at the UJ Law Clinic. I spent my holidays there as well with Mr. Hart, because I recognized that there is a need. A majority of people in South Africa are indigent. The majority of people in South Africa are indigent versus people that can afford legal services. And I think that's what propelled me then to want to do my article at Legal Aid for that very reason. But beyond that, I think working with indigent people and people that believe they can't do anything to pay you back for what you have helped them with, it teaches you certain things that you apply years later when you're no longer working in those spaces, when you have moved on. It teaches you how to approach people. It teaches you how to problem solve. It teaches you how to, and you apply those skills outside of just those spaces. So the long and short of it that I want to say is that while my life in particular may have shifted away from having worked with indigent people, I recognize that we are the access that people need to have to justice through our public platforms that we have. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's, you know, those are the points where we need to have these conversations to teach people about their legal rights and their responsibilities, because then when you know your legal rights and your responsibilities, then the concept of justice becomes a little bit clearer, because justice doesn't mean I'm right all the time. Justice has a different setting when it's applied objectively.
I also want to bring in, and I want to now play tennis from you, Advocate Molloy. Just want to play tennis, guys, and we haven't forgotten about you. Just keep that questions coming. Advocate Molloy, I want your 2 cents, as the old people would say, but 5 cents would be okay.
I'll give you 2. Thank you, Mr. Hart. For me, the issue of access to justice is inextricably linked to transformation of the legal profession. We're talking about decolonization of the law, and I'll come back to that in a second. I'd like to agree with my fellow panelists. When you look at pro bono, you see our colleagues in court all the time, and they are saying they are, what's the old adage, overworked, underpaid. and you see they come in with heaps of files, and you wonder, is everyone you're going to represent today, do they have your full attention? Have you paid attention to their cases? Have you prepared enough? Ms. Khalai was at the legal aid, so I'm sure she has something to say about that. Capacitate the legal aid officers throughout the country so that people have access to justice from this side of the table. We know that some people are not educated. Some people can't read, but they do know that an injustice has happened. Do they have your full attention at legal aid? Chances are not. The next one is pro bono officers. You go to the courts in Gauteng especially. You walk past the pro bono officers and there's long queues of gogos sitting outside. And you just wonder, will their cases get the right attention from us, the lawyers? And I'm not taking it to the judiciary yet because it starts with us. We are the ones who are going to listen to them. We are the ones who are going to draft their papers. They're there from the morning into the late afternoon on those benches. Mainly, most of the time I've seen speaking to one or two people. You wonder, will they get that access to justice that we speak of? Are we, as lawyers in practice, doing enough for pro bono? And I'd like to answer that in the negative. We went through the legal clinics, we went through your legal aid officers. Are we plowing back? Mr. Kaba, of course.
Yeah, I'm happy to address your question.
But are we, in practice, going back to our legal aid officers, going back to the law clinics where we graduated and saying, I have a week during recess to help out. Maybe I won't make it to court, but maybe I can mentor the students. Maybe I can listen to a case or two. Maybe I can draft. You don't know how long or how far reaching your efforts will go. Our last point on this, and coming back to the issue of transformation, is we need to start having the conversation about decolonization of the law. What do I mean by that? We have indigenous courts in South Africa, mainly called Lekgotla and such, where people take their disputes to the local chief. The chief decides, Mr. A, Ms. B, Mr. A, you are wrong, Ms. B is right. But when Ms. B tries to hold up that decision, Mr. A runs to court, and the court says, I do not recognize that chief's decision, maybe grants it to Mr. A in favor of Mr. A. Why can't those indigenous courts have legal weight? And obviously they would have to pass muster in terms of Section 39 of the Constitution, granted. But why can't we give them such a legal weighting that if a decision is made in that court, then it has legal weight and it is recognized by the law? Once again, Section 39 says we need to develop the common law, including customary law. Why can't we develop it? Those are my 2 cents.
You gave me 2 cents plus a 6 pence. I would want to also move over, and I already see that our alumni that's online has posted some serious questions, and they are wanting to take you guys to task. They want to take you guys to task, but I will leave you guys in suspense so that your hearts beat. Guys, I'm going to hold them responsible, but I want to come to Ms. Governor to also hear what is her take on this topic that we're addressing. What, from her perspective, what do you see? What do you think?
Well, I think for me, I have to echo what my panelists have said. I don't believe that access to justice is in the big courtrooms and constitutional litigation. For me, I believe that it's in the everyday person that feels intimidated by legal languages and who don't even know that they have rights that they can exercise. And I think that's something that we tend to forget often, is that the law is meant to serve people and not scare them. And in my journey, whether I've been in the boardroom or in the legal clinic or just speaking to women through mentorship, I've learned that access to justice happens in the most simplest of conversations. It's the moment someone says, wait a minute, I didn't know that. Or hold on, I didn't know that they are violating my rights, or I didn't know what that actually meant. And that's one of the reasons why I have my foundation called Her Way Out. And I think that is a responsibility that we all alumni carry, is that we need to extend our legal knowledge beyond the courtroom into our daily lives, into our communities, and like you said, onto online platforms, into our workspaces. And that, for me, is where justice truly begins.
She now gave a different perspective, but I'm surely and I'm truly convinced when we talk about access to justice, there's also what does the social entrepreneur do to actually make these opportunities alive. And here, I want to shoot straight to you, Mr. Ntabeni, because I know that is your space. That's your avenue, your lane, and I'm going to stay out of it, but I'm going to listen.
All right. I think what I need to touch on is that it's important to be educated about law. And people lack the information, they lack the platforms. And being in business, I've seen how many of my business partners and associates take advantage of employees because of the lack of information. Just outside, we were having a conversation about it's very important to inform people in the legal spaces, especially studying law, that there's a broader network that we can actually look into. And by doing that, if we had something that, a platform where we could teach everyone in the university institution, be in the Department of Art, Department of Public Management and Governance, let them be taught the foundation of law, especially labor law, because all of your students need to know the foundation of labor law. So I, for one, am in business. And yes, it's quite an interesting space to see how a lot of people do not know much about labor law.
Now, I think I've sort of half rounded and I've gotten a feeling of what everybody thinks about access to justice. And I think we agree that we have got this fancy legal jargon, we talk about access to justice, but the people who really needs it doesn't really get it. And I would go as actually as blunt as saying that the person with money is better placed to get justice than a person that's there from Mahayeng who doesn't know nothing about the law and that type of thing. But our online crew, and you guys can help me here, they ask how many of the alumni, means it includes each and everyone sitting around this table, have been involved in public interest litigation. And I see Mr. Guvadia, Advocate Guvadia's eyes is already like, I'm always busy there. Interest law that expanded this fancy jargon that we're using, this access to justice terminology that we're throwing around. So they want to know who of us sitting here has been involved to actually make sure that we do our little bit. As Advocate Molloy also said, what are we doing? And the alumni is asking you, you guys sit here and you have a talk shop, what did you do?
I can address that. And this is something that is being running through my thoughts as all of my learned colleagues speak. But you see, there was a sectoral code published about, I think this year, or was it last year, but it's been in the pipeline for the past 5 years. So the Legal Practice Council is trying to address this issue of access to justice. So what they did was, in the code initially, they said that all legal practitioners, which include attorneys and advocates, need to do 40 hours of pro bono per annum. Now, there was a bit of pushback from the profession, because you must remember, lawyers also need to eat. Lawyers also need to survive. And I mean, 40 hours is about a week, if you count 8 hours a day. So that's a week of pro bono. But I know that the organization which I belong to, the Johannesburg Bar, we have to do 20 hours of pro bono. All members have to do 20 hours of pro bono per annum. And if we don't do it, it's professional misconduct. So then the Bar Council can take action against non-compliant practitioners. Just on Mr. Hart's question on public interest litigation, your everyday case, the person who has a legal problem, it's not usually public interest. So it can be anything from a small domestic violence to a lease agreement to a divorce, whether it's a breach of contract or insolvency. But those big cases, at university when they teach us the constitutional court with 11 judges, justices, they gave all these things. It doesn't happen every day. This is like a once in a while thing, and I can tell you those counsel who are briefed in those matters, they send a big bill to the attorney at the end of the thing. And this is something that was actually raised at the Judicial Service Commission a few years ago, where in a constitutional court matter involving a public company, I think the advocate's bill or the whole legal team's bill, including the advocate and the attorney, was a million rand. So yeah, those public interest cases, they don't happen every day. It's a once in a while thing. And obviously, we can get into that other issue of like, there's certain NGOs and NPOs which fund public interest litigation as well. So they have donors which then pay the lawyers to run the matters.
So before I switch teams, because I have to switch teams, and we'll come to Mr. Ndabeni, because if we switch teams and then to the ladies, the two ladies, the beautiful faces of this faculty, the masters and the miss of the world, we will come to them. I want to switch it, but I just want to give each one 1 minute quickly to just say, because what I think they want to know is like, where were you involved, where you actually said, okay, I at least put an advice desk quickly in a rural area. If you haven't done it, no problem, but just say, I think that's what they want to hear also, quickly from us.
Yeah, I'll not to differ from your point. I'm privileged in the sense that I exist in a corporate environment that has a dedicated pro bono and human rights department, right? So we are the conscience of the firm. I'm in a department that does work that's underpinned by impact. So contrary to what the advocate has said, the matters that I deal with on a daily basis are public interest matters. So it could be access to education, it could be access to healthcare, it could be access to information, it could be documentation, it could be land, housing rights, you name it all. So the good thing about that is that you've got a department that's run by people who want to do the work and who have the expertise to do the work, which is a model that's somewhat different to saying you're gonna compel everyone. I'm not averse to that, but if you're gonna compel everyone to do 40 hours or 20 hours of pro bono work, to run a case, advocate, you know to run a case successfully and with the skill that's required and the dedication that's required, it could take you a year. So I'm in support of it, but my challenge is understanding the LPC's position of wanting to do away with that, with
to take on a pro bono matter and then you run with it, and instead of putting that 40-hour cap on.
So it seems that there's an issue with big law firms having pro bono departments, which to me it somewhat defeats the purpose, because by having that, you have people that are dedicated to doing that work with the due diligence and the skill that's required.
So the next one, Advocate Mlo, you want to jump in with your 1 minute so they could just say?
So I'm currently involved in a long-standing matter where a municipality around Gauteng, I won't say which one, basically
we know more on that.
basically displaced farmers, right, to build RDP houses and such. It's a noble thing to build houses for people, but here's the kicker now. When removing those farmers, they promised them compensation. That some of them never got that compensation. Some of them got more than others, and the white farmers got way less than the black farmers. They had financial statements, they had a company, they had formalized, essentially. Not that the black farmers weren't working, they weren't farming, but they didn't have those structures, right? And now because of that, we took up the case and it's still ongoing. It's about, I believe it's about 3 years in right now. And we are Unfortunately, going back to my Leonard friend on this side, receiving pushback even from the judiciary, we had a cost order against poor indigent farmers. And you wonder what is in the judge's mind to give such a cost order. And it was an adverse cost order against such farmers. But anyway, I digress on that point.
Just want to check, is there 1 minute available this side?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the ladies is like, hey. So let's get that 1 minute before I switch tunes.
Okay, you can go first.
Okay, so when it comes to public interest, I think having spent so much time in the law clinic and at legal aid, it was inevitable that I was going to learn the fact that so many people need access to law, or they just want to ask a question. And I think that while we may not have been doing cases that landed in the media or cases that changed 100 people's lives or nothing to that extent, but I think availing yourself, and I think it's something that I continued throughout way after I finished with legal aid. I moved into the corporate spaces, but I think that the point that I have tried to make in my career is to remain accessible, because people may need to ask a question that could change the scheme of their situation. I've started a YouTube page where I call it My Lawyer's Corner. Ask me anything. Let's talk about basic rights of a lay person so that you know where you stand with your rights, with the law, and so that you know how to hold people accountable, people that are responsible for doing things that they need to do for your benefit as a citizen of this country. And for me, when people know better, they do better. And I try my best to let people know what to do better so that they do it.
Mr. Ntabe?
All right, what I would want to say about my 1 minute. What's important is that everyone sitting here has a legal background. Most of the viewers have a legal background. What's important is to hold ourselves accountable. Whether you are in an advocate or in the labor law space, we need to hold ourselves accountable for everything. And we need to remember what the constitutional mandates are with what we carry. And that's how we're going to be able to have access to justice for many people. Just echoing what you're saying, but people knowing, by them knowing what they can do, where they can go, they'll be able to get assistance. And even when we grow, those who are in the courts, as you go and you become a judge and you become high power in the high court, always remember what the mandate is to be for the people. And yes, I am contributing a lot in my business. We are in the construction and civil space, and I ensure that all our employees have an idea, not to know, but have an idea of what rights they have.
Ms. Governor, I see you also were one of those sniping arrows coming through to say you want your 1 minute.
Yes, I want my 1 minute. I just want to say, like, I think we all find ourselves in different circumstances, but I think with the privilege that we find ourselves as being law alumni, we do need to sort of give back and make an impact within our circumstances. We cannot exist as islands. For me, outside of leading practice and outside of leading corporate, I still felt an urge to try and see what I can do with what I've learned. And I got hold of a law firm, and with them is where I created my foundation, Her Way Out, because I believe that each and every person has a way out of their circumstances. And with that, we would go to courts and we would assist gender-based violence victims with their interim protection orders. And a simple act like filling out a person's form for them makes the biggest impact. Because when a person walks in being a GBV victim, something as simple like their identity number or their address, they forget. And just to have someone write it out for them changes their day. And that's about an hour or 2 hours on one Friday a month. And we would also go to lower income communities, and we would just speak to the community about their general rights. And just to, like you said, help them know better so that they can do better. And yeah, I think that we cannot exist in silos. And even if it's 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week, we all have some sort of platform, whether it's online or in person, in our communities or in the workplace. We all can definitely do something.
Now, indeed, we can and we're supposed to, because I always tell the students, and people tend to forget, we as lawyers, sometimes we think that lawyer is a financial science. Law is a social science. And I want to say to us, tonight, if you've remembered one thing, remember law is a social science. We're not there to make money. Yes, if you do your job properly, money will follow. But first, properly, then money will follow. But I think we've highlighted the challenges there, Advocate Molloy. I think we've touched on them. We haven't mentioned them all. You've somewhere put our lordships in the line of fire, but sometimes we have to do that. That's what we do. We don't hold back. But I want to move over to a different thing. And I think I would want the three panelists sitting there. And I would start with Mr. Ntambeni because he's a social entrepreneur, where we say, how did you actually use your skills? Coming to the second theme where we say, use your law to actually bridge that gap, going into a different frame. And I know the ladies, what they did, they were practicing lawyers, they were busy doing the law thing, and then they realized, but I can also hit the catwalk. So, but I will start with you to say, let's say, how did we do that? How did we do that transitioning to make sure you use your legal skills going in? And I know I always tell the kids, law is in everything, medicine, construction law. Doesn't matter. You buy a loaf of bread at ShopRite, law. That is involved. So I would start with you. How did you use your skills? And I want the ladies to then come in, and then I would want the advocates to also come in, and also our colleagues here on the side.
Thank you. I started my company when I was in the second year here at the University of Johannesburg. And I started making money from the second year. I started there. So my studies I didn't intend to go work for anyone. I've never worked for anyone. But what the legal side has done for me is to be a non-nonsense taker. I know contracts in and out. I can smell a rat from far. Yeah. So that's what it's done for me. And it's allowed me to be strategic, to be able to make good decisions. I found myself working in big platforms and being in the policy making in the FAO in Italy. So I've worked for different places, the European Union, I've worked for them. And what I'm trying to show you is that I've been in different spaces, but the principle is the same. I'm strategic, I know where to be at the right time, and I sit at the right tables.
He's not a entrepreneur, guys. Place it on the record. Guys online, he started his own business, not tenders. I want to come to the ladies also because they also use their skill and their je ne sais quoi to actually use that skills in a different setting. And how did you guys transition from you worshiping to I am the queen, I am my lady? Any one of you can go first.
I'll kickstart. I think, like you said, Mr. Hart, there's law in everything. There's law in everything. We run businesses, we run NPOs, there's law in everything. And what for me, being an attorney, what being an attorney has done for me, like you said, no nonsense. And I think the no nonsense comes from the confidence of knowing what you know. You are able to negotiate strategically, but also responsibly because you know what you're talking about. And I think when you think of business and you think of law, the two for me are interreliant. They rely on each other. To start the business, you need to know what business law is. And Professor Kathleen was my business enterprises law lecturer when I was at uni.
All these alumni.
She was my lecturer. But in sort of shifting gears and where my life has taken me, being crowned Mrs. South Africa 2024 and being crowned Mrs. World, I can't not credit being an attorney. I can't not credit it. My confidence really comes from being an attorney. My boldness comes from being an attorney, because I had to be bold in moments where I was so scared, but I had to pretend that I'm bold. You know, that first time you stand before a magistrate and you call her my lady, and you just want to, like, you want the world to open up and for you to, like, jump in, you know. But those lessons that you learn and the confidence that you acquire, for me, I cannot not credit being an attorney. Definitely being an attorney is the foundation for a lot of things, how I run my life. I'm working in the corporate space. I'm working in my own consultancy. I'm working in my NPO, and all of those things have the basis of me being an attorney. Even with being, I don't like the word, but influencer, even with those spaces where you are of influence, nobody can BS you, because you know what you're entitled to and what you're responsible for. And yeah, I can't move in my spaces without including the fact that I'm an attorney.
Ms. Govinder, you want to drop the penny there?
Yeah, it's funny because when I got into law and started practicing law, I never thought that I would be speaking on entrepreneurship one day. But in all reality, the skills that we learn in legal training are some of the best tools for running a business. And it teaches you how to think strategically, how to manage your risks, how to negotiate confidently, and most importantly, how to problem solve. And I think that's what entrepreneurs do each and every day. And for me, when I started working outside of a traditional law firm and then leaned toward building my own brand, I realized that having the legal training is basically a lens that allows you to see 10 steps ahead. So you don't just create something, but you think about, how am I going to protect this? How am I going to grow it sustainably? And how can I structure it properly? And I think being an entrepreneur, or even practicing law, you still need to be able to run your own practice, and having that legal education or having that legal lens is crucial, because now you're making decisions that are not out of fear, but rather clarity. So no, I think it's great. It's brought me to where I am. And I think if there's anything that someone should go and educate themselves on is legal education on how to run their business.
Edward Molloy, I want to jump to you, but then I would not want to leave this lady alone here from Legal Wise. She needs to give me her 2 cents, but I want to come a little bit, because we heard 2 ladies now. I want 2 men to just balance it quickly and make the pot curry nice. And then we would come to Mr. Kaba and Mr. Advocate Kuvadia also.
Of course. For me, we as lawyers are trained without even knowing it to assess risk, right? You have foresight. We counsel clients daily from small transactions to big transactions. Sometimes, little monies are involved. Sometimes eye-watering amounts of money are involved. But for me, it's the foresight, right? And that's where the bridge comes in. If you are saying you are an entrepreneur, you need to navigate certain landmarks, which you may not even know are there. But if you have that legal background, if you have been trained, and obviously you went through your LLBs, your LLMs, and LLDs, you have a certain gift, I would even call it, that most people don't have. And it's often said that, it's often joked that you became a lawyer because you don't know numbers, or you can't count, or whatever the case is. But I think that's only one aspect of business, right? Numbers. You can eventually read that financial statement and see what property, plant, and equipment is, for instance. But for me, honestly speaking, it's being able to navigate the regulatory landscape, of certain acts that apply in your field of business. So yeah.
Mr. Bangu,
So
and I'm sure you're not unpacking what you're doing, everything. You just said I'm a labor specialist and I work at Legal Wise. I've looked at your LinkedIn profile now. Tell us something before I divulge.
okay, so I would like to use this as a moment of reflecting from the time I was at UJ for my undergrad, right? I do think that the law degree gives you some sort of confidence and it unlocks potential that you don't know that you have, particularly starting from, I think, at first, second year, where you do moot court, right? In as much as you would have done presentations in high school, when you get to moot court, you have to research. You're sort of doing that mock court and all of that. And now you get that confidence to say, okay, I can do this, I can research, I can speak to my teammates, I can work in a group, right? I can speak a particular way. Then when you transition into the workplace, right, whatever industry, but in my regard, I went through the articles route. Like I would say, training to be a lawyer is like military training. That stuff is hard, and I don't think anyone can prepare you for it. We can read books and all of that, but there's just that that military thing about becoming a lawyer. Then you come across board exams, right? Like anybody that has written board exams, arguably the toughest exams you can ever write in your life, right? And even as you pass, it's not even about the mark, it's about the dedication it teaches you, the relentlessness it teaches you. I remember this one time when I was going to write ethics, I sat next to somebody who said, I'm writing for the 7th time. And I asked myself the amount of determination, relentlessness that takes for you to repeat something that much and keep hoping that it's going to turn out well. You have things like networking, right? It teaches you how to be confident, how to engage with other people, and how to communicate, and even the content of it, right? As a business person or as a person that goes into business, you need to know your stuff, right? In as much as you're still going to have your own legal team, but you need to know the basics. And even in simple things, how you treat your employees, you know how not to be in trouble. And also, you know how to deal with employees that bullshit you, you know? And yeah, I think it's, if I mean, if it was easy, I would say everybody should attempt studying law. It does unlock a certain confidence, a certain discipline, and I think some sort of creativity as well. Because again, being a lawyer forces you to think on your feet. There's some circumstances where I've seen, like when you go and sit in court, you can tell that the advocate was not prepared, but you can tell that he had to come up with an answer there and there. And it's always just so hilarious to see people become creative. So I think it's really a beautiful profession to be in. It teaches you basic skills and it makes you stand out. You know, like when I do, like for instance, I have a podcast, right? So I do career education on that podcast. And every time I say, so I jokingly introduce myself as a podcaster. And then people are like, ah. And then when I say I'm an attorney by profession, and they're like, oh, you're from the novel profession. Can I ask this? Can I ask that? So already it comes with some level of respect and status. And hopefully that we all account for that, because it's not just the status, but also it's in how we carry ourselves and what we give to the people as well.
Yeah, Kuvadia. I was now like trying to already. I wanted to say Mr. Traba, but then the X and the G got crossed line. Advocate Kuvadia, can you actually tell me how you actually managed to bridge that gap? And then Mr. Traba, I will leave that closing, that final juice to you.
Best for last, Mr.
The best for last.
Mr. Hart, you know, when you start your own practice, either as an attorney or an advocate, in essence, you're starting a business. It's as simple as that. And any business requires cash flow to continue. And that's very important. In my experience, I believe a lot of my colleagues who started their own practices, when they're attorneys, you know, we perhaps did LLB together, or we did PLTs together, or whatever we did together, started their own practices. It was born out of necessity. It was, they couldn't get retained at the big firm, or they couldn't get articles at the big firm. So they decided to make it big for themselves. And that is important. Not everyone is going to get into the big firm, and that's fine. Doesn't make you a less of a lawyer, less of an attorney, less of an advocate. Maybe not an advocate, but I'm an attorney if you have your own practice. It's what you give to the client. It's the value that you bring to the client. That's important. A client comes to you with a problem, you need to solve a problem. It's as simple as that. And that's the long and short of it. I've been in business even while I was a student. I never thought I would ever be a lawyer. Never. I never thought, to my mind, I thought by third year I'll drop out of this university and I'll continue with my business. And today I'm an advocate of the High Court. I've come very far. But what I'm saying is students need to understand these things. They need to understand the nuances of practice and they'll get very fine.
Mr. Clever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered all bases. I couldn't agree more. I'll just maybe quickly maybe take a different approach. I see the empowerment that law brings in the work that we do. So within CDH, we've got various departments. So there's employment, there's tax, there's corporate measures and acquisitions and so forth. So part of the social responsibility that we have is that we give legal advice to startups, small businesses, and medium businesses or enterprises. So I've seen businesses transform on the basis of from information that was gained from a workshop or a mere 1 hour consultation. So again, it goes back to that legal education. So I've seen what how law or legal education empowers, or legal skills empowers entrepreneurs and transforms business so that businesses continue to run and being successful, which contributes to employment, which maintains livelihoods of South Africans, which entails a better life and prosperous future for all of us.
Indeed, indeed. Guys, now, I think our time is a little bit tight, but I am not that unfair guy. I'm a fair referee. And I've gotten a question from the online crew, and I would give each one around the table 1 minute. And this is now strictly going to be a 1 minute. I'm going to say like, oh, move there. So they say, how can law graduates leverage their skills to innovate and facilitate commercial enterprises while maintaining ethical standards? And I know Mr. Ntabeni touched on it, but we can start anyway. Just give me where's the one, then we'll do one and we go one way around. Okay, Mr. Ntabeni starts.
I'll start. So, sorry, what is the question?
It's like, how
I had
can
an answer in my head, yeah.
how can law students leverage their skills to actually start commercial enterprises and actually maintaining ethical standards, not to give away your value, because you get this brown envelope story. You understand? In South Africa, if I give you the contract, you must give me a brown envelope that you drop off the table, like it comes, it drops off. And I say, oh, I pick up this data. That's what I think they want to mean by maintaining your ethical standard.
Practice integrity throughout. Small business, big business, whatever it is, practice integrity and stick to your principles.
And easy come, easy go.
Of course.
Yeah. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
And I see the ladies say, easy come, easy go. I don't know what that means, because story. But Advocate Moloi, you want to touch on this easy come, easy go situation?
I don't know. No. I do understand where they're coming from, but yes, I do agree somewhat, right? If you don't work for anything, if you're given everything on a silver platter, or fed with a silver spoon, or even fed with a brown envelope, that's all you'll ever be, essentially. Whereas if you stick to your moral compass, right? We had to write the ethics exam, so you know what not to do. But ethics for me it's your morals. Where are your scruples if you are getting the brown envelopes or asking for a brown envelope even? So it's very easy for me to say, stick to your guns. If you know that you are right, you are right. And I mean, honestly speaking, if you feel that it's too good to be true, then it probably is.
No, it is. I mean, I would not say, but I've encountered certain situations where they wanted to actually take me away from UJ and I respectfully declined. I respectfully declined. Ms. Govender, do you want to
Yes,
give your...
yes. I think it comes, like you said, comes down to your morals, to your values, to your integrity, to your ethics. And it's something that it should be extended far beyond not only legal students, but it's a way of life. My parents, who have no legal background, always taught me that whatever you do in the dark will always come to light. So you can accept that brown envelope, but one day when it does come, it's not going to be beautifully painted picture.
Provide.
So exactly, take the highway, put in the hard work, and the good results will definitely follow.
Edward Gubadia, I know you would be in this predicament most of the time because you represent trade unions, and then there's hard negotiations that need to happen, and obviously you need to keep a stern face.
My advice, Mr. Hart, is simple. Ethics is very important from the time that you're a law student and you're not plagiarizing of ChatGPT or whatever they're using nowadays, and Google and so on. I mean, when I was at university, it was Google, but now we probably use ChatGPT. To when you're a candidate attorney, to when you are in practice, it's always maintain ethical values. Even when you're on the bench, you can be the most intelligent student, but if you're not ethical, you will be struck off the road. You must remember, a lot of attorneys, they have trust accounts and clients deposit sometimes millions into trust accounts. Now, it's very easy to dip your fingers as an attorney into the trust account and go and buy yourself a BMW or a Porsche, but ethics is important. Account for that money. That's why it's called a trust account. It's held in trust. Clients are trusting you with their money. And that's important. A lot of very clever lawyers don't practice anymore, have been struck because they stole the client's money from their own trust account.
Moshavangu, you want to still add, or is it easy come, easy go?
I'll just add in, right? So the first one, I recently had a conversations with some students, right? I was telling them that it's in the simple things. When you make honesty and integrity your core values when you wake up every morning, you won't have to start thinking about as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a this. You wake up every day with the mission of being honest, with the mission of maintaining your integrity and not doing anything that harms the next person or anything dishonest, right? That's the first point. I even made an example to them, like simple things like lying about being sick, right? A sick note, right? You could get away with it, but one day you get caught. You have to be suspended for 5 years. When 5 years happens, you're probably tired, you're not interested in school, you've wasted your future. So it's in the little things. If you're not well, go to the doctor and they'll give you a legitimate sick note, right? There's that. And then secondly, there's always disclose, right? I think another issue we have, people don't disclose conflict of interest, right? So if there's a conflict of interest, put it out there. Hey, I'm a law student. I'm busy with this and I'm busy with that. Is it going to cause any conflict? Is it okay? Because if you don't do that, it's always going to come out. So be honest, make it a character thing, more than just about the integrity of the profession or the industry. Work on yourself as an individual to be honest, to be truthful, and to just be honest if there's anything going on. But yeah, don't find yourself on the wrong side of things. Because I mean, if you're studying the law, it's embarrassing that you'd be found wanting or on the wrong side. You know, even when you take your oath as an attorney, they tell you about how you shouldn't embarrass the profession. You should be honest and. So yeah, make it about you. You should be able to wake up every day and choose better and do better.
Salai, I hear you said, you are the easy come, easy go authority. But before I close off with Mr. Kaba, because I think his job is the easiest amongst all of the other legal practitioners. But I would just want to give you a minute quickly and I would come to him for his closing remarks also.
I think the advocate said my sentiments that a lot of what we do as attorneys on behalf of our clients requires a level of trust that our clients need to have in us. So work on just be trustworthy. Be trust you. How do you expect to be trusted if you're not trustworthy? And by virtue of having gone through an LLB degree, you know the difference between right and wrong. That you already know. You know the difference between right and wrong. Maintain it, uphold it. That's really all that it is. Wherever you go, those principles will follow you, whether you are in practice, whether you are in corporate, whether you are in your own business, whether you are in other spaces outside of what the law traditionally expects of us to be. Those principles will follow you.
Okay, Mr. Kawa, why I left you for last is because you sit in the pro bono office. So Advocate Molloy said when the figures look so lucrative, and Advocate Guvadia talked about their deposits into the trust account, then your finger starts itching. But you don't have that problem. You still have a sentiment to share. Because people don't deposit nothing into you. They just come with their problems.
Yes. No, I think from an entrepreneur's point of view, I think it is important for entrepreneurs to understand the regulatory space that they are operating within. I think that's very important. And as from a legal practitioner's perspective, yeah, just understand your code of ethics. That's that. I think that's the alpha and the omega.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to thank each and one around the table, our esteemed guests, alumni of the great University of Johannesburg, not leaving out the great faculty of law as well. Once again, we want to thank you for coming around, but I want to now give it over to Ms. Paladi Mahongwa, the senior manager for the alumni events and groups at the University of Johannesburg, to actually do the official thank yous.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. And I think from just listening to the panel, I think I deserve an honorary LLB.
Yeah.
Yes, if there is such, I do deserve it. But and good evening again, colleagues. I think the subjects that you discussed today are quite important and necessary for our country to be able to have a fair justice system. And please remember, you are social entrepreneurs, not financial. Yes. But from where I'm sitting today, I could sing that song from Adele to say to the virtual guests, hello from the other side. Because I've just moved recently from the Faculty of Law, but I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. And I think, although it is not in the same context, I don't think Adele was telling them that she's changed jobs. It was for something else. But I think for me, it's like hello from CAA side. It has been a pleasure to have all of you here this evening and the online guests. We had an excellent discussion from the panelists. I won't be able to name them one by one, but I thank you, colleagues, for joining us. I can conclude today and say the purpose of this discussion has been completely accomplished. I've taken a few notes and I have families and relatives that I'm going to be referring your way from now on. On the issue that you talked about on access to justice, it is a worrisome topic that I think still needs to be discussed further if we can get another opportunity. There's a lady out there in the rural Polokwane, Limpopo, that requires some knowledge on a matter or two. And I specifically got the point when I think Ms. Advocate Kovadia said the justice, the person who needs justice does not necessarily get it. But justice is mainly favoring those with fat pockets, which is a sad reality that is the country is facing currently. But I think with you, Leonard, colleagues, you will be able to break that and make sure that everybody has access to justice. And also, I did another key takeaway was when Mr. Advocate Ntabeni said,
lawyers need to hold themselves accountable in whatever that they do. And we shouldn't be having any people, any practicing lawyers or advocates that are getting arrested because they've committed fraud. I mean, a Porsche is not as important as a child in the Eastern Cape that requires a wheelchair, or a guy that has been involved in an accident that requires medical care. So lawyers must hold themselves accountable. And that is where the integrity comes in also, as well as honesty, the core values, as Ms. Shabangu said. That is the summary of the discussion tonight. And I have learned, I'm going to talk to my executive dean here to get my LLB. So meet you at the courts. I think I also want to talk about when we talk about legal training, I'll be failing the faculty if I don't mention some of the good things that we are currently involved in. We are aiming to shape the business landscape through the academic programs, through research, to name but a few. But there's a great initiative, a collaboration that the University of Johannesburg is involved in, which is promoting gender equity within the legal profession. I think that is still an important factor in our law firms, in the courts. We still clap hands if they appoint a lady in one of the, the top jobs in the legal field, which shouldn't be the case after many years of democracy. So through the Core Impact Gender Fund project that the University of Johannesburg, particularly the greatest faculty of law, is involved in, there's a mentorship. Mr. Hart is also there. There's a mentorship project that has workshops aimed to empowering Black female law students and early career academics, fostering leadership and addressing systematic barriers to success in the legal field. So to our guests online, Mr. Hart is here, you can reach out. This project is aimed to empower people like you.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes, yes.
So this project has a name, which is the UJ Ikamva Initiative. It's not only in the law faculty, and it's not only looking at academics and early career academics, but also in the entire legal practice. And I know for sure I'm working on a project on just female directors on corporate boards. But back to you.
You see, so a lot more people can benefit from this. So legal training continuing, or training in general from the greatest University of Johannesburg continuing. Finally, I would like to express my appreciation to all the speakers, the panelists, and the online guests, and the questions that they've posed. And I would also want to thank the alumni team, Mr. Victor Kangale, Angela, Celinda, she's
roaming outside
somewhere, yes, and as well as Kopano. Kopano is on leave, but she has put in a lot of work with the team to make sure that we all can gather here today. And I also want to thank the technical team, Mr. Thabang Mukwena, as well as Daryl Fori, for making sure that the people online can see me and all of us today, and also be able to hear us. Colleagues, I thank you so much for all the hard work. I also want to appreciate the team from the Faculty of Law, our program director, the king himself, Mr. Elton Hart, and the very capable Mr. Mbuso Mtiani. I'm sure you've received emails from him. He was in another event today, so he couldn't be with us. I thank them for collaborating with the alumni office, and of course, our dear acting executive dean, for taking time off the busy schedule. I know how busy you are, Prof, to attend to this panel discussion, and to extending warmest welcome to you guys. In conclusion, I've already gotten 2 people to sign up for alumni, and I'm hoping that we're going to get more from the online guests. Please please, please, we invite you to join our Alumni Connect platform. We are very proud of the vibrant and growing alumni community. I know that you exchanged numbers. Please pass on the numbers to others and the others and the others, and tell the other ex-students to join our alumni. We need you. We need you to share ideas with us. We need you to share suggestions for future events and collaborations. We need your voice, basically. Your input will be invaluable, and we are always keen to explore new ways to strengthen our alumni network. And as graduate, you are the heart of UJ's legacy of excellence. Be on the lookout for more events in future of this kind or different. Mr. Govadia has already promised me he's going to be at every event at the Faculty of Law, as well as come talk to our students. I thank you, colleagues.